Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cutting Edge Figure Skating Podcast. My name is Kim Dunaway, and in this episode, I'll be recapping the pairs event at the 2024 U.S. Figure Skating Championships. This event was an interesting one, and I think we all expected it to be pretty wide open, and it was. I think it was also pretty disappointing, which was frustrating because I think it had all the potential to be good, but unfortunately, I think we got the other end of the spectrum. And people have asked, like, what happened? Like, just a couple of years ago, it felt like, Pairs was finally like turning in the right direction when we had Kane and Leduc at their best, and Nieram and Fraser, and Cowling and Johnson, and how quickly things can basically fall apart. But hopefully that this was the exception and it's not going to be the rule, although it was pretty on course for a lot of these teams. So let's get into it. First, we got to talk about our withdrawal. So the winners of the short program were Emily Chan and Spencer Howe, and they were coming back from Spencer's shoulder surgery. So he had surgery on a torn labrum, and I teach anatomy and yoga teacher training. So labrum is like this little, like we like to call it, like a little Play-Doh, kind of like extra, we call fibrocartilage. It's in your socket in your shoulder to sort of help cushion it and help absorb shock. And so if it's torn, it has to be like surgically repaired, and it's like stapled in. And so I didn't realize that the recovery for it was so long. I've actually known a couple people that have gotten their hip labrum repaired, but shoulder labrum, not as familiar with. And so apparently he's only been back at about 100% for about a month. And so they were practicing just their short program while they were here. And it didn't really dawn on anybody until after they had withdrawn that they hadn't practiced any other lifts than the lift that was in their short program. And when they practiced it all week, he practiced just like a two-hand variation and not the one-hand variation, which they did do in the actual event. But apparently, I think that the plan here was just for them to come, show some readiness, and then petition to be on the world team. And so it wasn't never clear that they petitioned or not, but they were named to the world team. But they won the short program here and promptly withdrew to help with the recovery of his shoulder, and understandably so. They were not clean here. Emily stepped out on their throw and put her hand down. Their side-by-side jumps were good. The lift was good. Everybody was a little bit nervous. Spencer came sporting a goatee in all the practices, and then shaved the day of the event because they're skating to Elvis's fever, and he felt like, Elvis was always clean shaven, so he needed to be clean shaven as well. So the question, of course, is, will they be ready 6 weeks from now for Worlds in Montreal? Obviously, the hope is that they've been named to the team. We shall see. They are the U.S.'s best chance to retain the 3 spots. I think without them, it would be impossible for that to happen. It also wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I mean, it's nice to have 3 spots, but let's be honest, I don't know that we need 3 spots, but we'll see. But if they're gonna get close to retaining 3 spots at all, they definitely need Chan and Howe to be there. And like I said, I think it's going to be a struggle even with them there as well, especially what comes behind them. So on to the winners here, which was Ellie Cam and Danny O'Shea. So in their short program, they landed their side-by-side triple toes. I was like, yes! And then she promptly fell on their triple loop, which is pretty normal for them. And it sucks because everything else is so good. The crowd was really on their side. Like, that lift they do is incredible. Like, the choreography is so good, and their twist is better than it was towards the end of last season when they were really struggling on it, and even how it was in the fall. So they looked really strong. So even despite the fall, they found themselves in second place, which I question that maybe a tad, but they were. So obviously going to the free skate, they were the de facto number 1 with Chan and Howe's withdrawal. And they had 3 False. So first of all, I was really watching them in the warm-up because somebody asked on Twitter, have they ever even landed any of these throws? And I'm like, I haven't seen them land any in practice or the run-throughs that I've seen. Now obviously I wasn't physically there in Columbus to watch the practices and see every single rep, because when you're watching the practice cam, they're showing the run-throughs. And then you sort of get a much wider view before and after the run-throughs, and so you don't get to see everything. And you definitely can't see what's going on away from the team that's doing the run-through. But everything that I hadn't seen them land anything. Now, I did see her land a throw loop in the warm-up. It wasn't great. She eked it out, but she didn't step out of it. She didn't put her hand down. She didn't fall. But come game time, it was just SSDD. Same story, different day. So they came out, landed the triple Salchows, promptly fell on the triple loop. Then came in the triple toe. That didn't go particularly well. The side-by-side triple toe fell on that. I don't know that they actually called it a fall. She put her hand down, and I thought her butt went down. Maybe her butt didn't touch the ice. And then fell on the throw triple sow. And they were promptly rewarded with a victory, which was ridiculous. Let's be honest. I understand that the judges probably don't want to have a team win that is ineligible to go to Worlds. And Elliot and Danny did not win the free skate. They were second in the free skate, and it was a messy free skate for everybody, pretty much. And so, but 123 points or 3 falls, I don't know. They were number 1 in PCS, which, is fair, I guess. I mean, based upon, a lot of these other teams, they've been paired up longer than some of they have, and they've been paired up about a year and a half. That's just kind of where we're at with American pairs right now. So, yeah, I really thought that Efimova and Mitrofanoff should have won. I just didn't see it. I mean, I probably would have. Now, granted, I mean, Chelsea and Balazs were third, and they didn't have a great skate either. But I would have had them closer to Chelsea and Balazs than I would have had them closer to Alicia and Misha. So, that's where we're at with right now with American pairs. The national champions fell 3 times in their free skate and 4 times over the course of 2 programs. Now, do I think this free skate was as disastrous as the 2004 nationals, which I think is probably the worst pairs event I have ever seen anyway, and Baldwin won that one. So no, I don't think it was that bad. So there's that. Okay. Moving on to Efimova and Mitrofanoff. So this is Alicia Efimova, who was formerly paired with Ruben Blumart and skated for Germany. She is actually born in Finland. She's got a Russian last name, and now she's skating for the U.S. So this is a very long-term play for this team, because I can't see any way in the world that she would have citizenship in 2 years that would allow them to go to the Olympics in Italy, which would put them at, 2030 if they're planning on, and they can, a lot of pairs, ice dance teams will go a lot longer, but this is not something that I think they can materialize fast enough for them to be able to represent the U.S. at the Olympics. But the hope is that a year from now, she could represent the U.S. at international competition. So you have to sit out for a year. So her last competition with Germany was Worlds. So she's already been released from Germany. She just has to sit out a year. And so theoretically, we should see this team on the Grand Prix next season. And I thought they were pretty promising in the free dance. Their rhythm dance, their short program was a little disappointing. It was difficult to see in the practices, like what their programs really looked like, because they marked so much of their programs. But she again did side-by-side triple toes, which I was like, yes, like something that she struggled so much with her previous partner, but fell on the throw loop. But the amazing thing about them was that they look like a seasoned pair. Like they're extremely well matched. I thought him and Audrey Lou were a good pair team, but I felt like there were limits to them as a pair. It just didn't seem like the connection was really there, like you want to see with pair teams. And so I think that this is a much better match for him than Audrey Lou was. Their music selection for me was a little bit odd in the second half of that program. Their free skate, they're using the same music that the Hungarians use. And frankly, I think much more successfully, in my opinion. She two-footed her triple Salchow, landed her throw. It's very dramatic music. I don't feel like either one of them really starts to perform until they're about 3 minutes in. But I did see a lot more performance and fire in Alicia than what I have typically seen from her, especially in this kind of a style of a program. Traditionally, she does really, really well with pieces like Moonlight Sonata, like very pretty piano, classical pieces. So I saw a little bit of a side to her that I haven't seen. So I'm very, very encouraged by this team. And I think that they've got to be thrilled with being second at their very first U.S. Nationals. And like I said, I thought they should have won, but they did not. All right. Our number 3 team here was a surprise. Yeah, definitely a surprise. Valentina Plazas and Max Fernandez. They have been underwhelming in the jump department for as long as I have known this team, which is about 2 years. And this, again, SSDD, just the same song and dance. Their short program, great twist, beautiful throw, which isn't always there. Maybe the best throw in the short program. And then just rough side-by-side jumps for both of them. They fought for it, but he turned out of his and she stepped out of hers. They still had a high tech score because of their other elements in their program. I mean, they're one that internationally has gotten a level 4 on this twist a lot. They actually got a level 3 on their, which they should never get a level 3 on their lift. Like whatever feature you didn't get, I wasn't paying enough attention. There's no excuse. Like this is the lift goats right here, right? Step sequence level 3. Again, these are little areas that they could improve upon, but they're going to get their first chance to go to a world championship. So I'm thrilled for them. And their free skate, they were doing the Top Gun music, which was so different than what everybody else was doing. Like there was a lot of like sad, depressing songs, Hallelujah, and all of these different songs before them. So you could feel the crowd like really kind of getting excited for them. And Jackie commented that this is the biggest crowd that he could remember at a free skate, at a U.S. Nationals. I saw pictures on Twitter of people posting that they had opened like the third deck. And Adam and Ashley said that there were like lots of oohs and ahs. And so they had such a great crowd for this. It's unfortunate that they didn't have better performances, but this crowd, they were like really behind them. But she fell on their side-by-side triple toes. They do a double Salchow, double axel sequence that they couldn't land that very well either. Love the entrance into their pair skin. Of course, that last lift, just like right on that music, is just phenomenal. So yeah, definitely, got the best scores of their career at nationals. This is a team that we typically see get like, below 110. So to get 117, almost 118 points for them was really huge. And I definitely expected Chelsea and Balazs to be ahead of them and be going to Worlds, but they did what they had to do. They were fourth in both segments of the competition, but that was good enough for third, and they are headed to Worlds, and they're also headed to 4 continents. So really robust international season for these two, and maybe, just maybe, they can land a jump. We'll see. In 4th place here was Chelsea Liu and Balazs Nagy, apparently. I've been calling it Nagy, so Nagy. Okay. And so in their short program, they had an invalidated side-by-side jump because Chelsea popped hers into a single. She just like totally bailed. And in the warm-up, I saw her fall on a triple sal, but I heard that she did land one in the warm-up, but it's like she just didn't have any confidence going into that. And so that put them in 6th place because she also put her foot down on their throw. And so they had to come from behind, and they did finish third in the free skate, but just not enough to pull them up into one of the top 3 spots. Fell on her triple sow also in the free skate. I thought she was going to double it. She doubled it in the run through earlier that morning and doubled it in the warm up, but she went for it in the free skate, which I can respect. Didn't go well. The program just kind of seemed to stop like right before their throw triple loop. It's interesting because in practice, like Chelsea looks so happy and full of joy, and she just like lights up the whole arena. And when she's in competition, she looks so stressed, and it's so different than what she looks like at practice. And even though their elements don't always go well in practice, she seems like she shakes it off and she keeps on smiling. And in the performance, it just didn't feel like it had that same energy. She stepped out and put her hand down on their throw triple sow. And, I don't know why it is that they have this weird, like, long outro on their song. Like, they're just, like, staring at each other for, like, what feels like forever. It's just strange to me. I still have a lot of hope for this team, but they're going to have to get some jump help for Chelsea. Raphael's right there at Gray Park, and maybe some help from Roth. It helped out Alexa a lot with her side-by-side triple jumps, and Chelsea really needs some help in that department, because that's definitely what's holding them back, because Balaj seems to really nail his triple jumps pretty well. And they just have really fantastic lifts. And of course, they're really great and high twist. But it also, again, maybe just a year too soon for them as well, too. They've also been together less than a year. So they'll be at 4 continents, and then they can, turn the page to next season, which I certainly hope they plan to continue. 5th place here was Katie McBeath and Danielle Parkman. They were my sleeper picks to win, and I look like a pretty intelligent pick after the short program where they were the only team that was clean and landed everything side-by-side triple toes in that throw Lutz. She really gutted out, even though it wasn't always perfect in practice. They got negative GOE on their spins, but other than that, it was really strong effort. I thought you could have made a really good argument that they should have been in first after the short program. The free skate just did not go well at all, and it was a real bummer. So back up to their run through earlier in the day, she broke her blade during their run through, and so I don't know how much that they got to practice before that happened. And they spent the rest of the time like changing out her blade, and then they ended up changing out the blade on the other shoe so they would feel a little bit more normal. But she basically only got like the 6-minute warm up on the ice before they went out to really kind of practice on that. And so I don't know how much that was a factor. They were very up and down in practice. Like they would, land a throw, they would, fall out of a throw. What was so disappointing was they have a huge like triple flip, double axle combo in their program. And they nailed it much of the week. Like you might see an issue on one of the double axles, but the flips were really solid. But here, unfortunately, Katie fell on it. And then Danielle decided to just abandon the double axle, which meant that they got a repetition violation on that flip, because pairs, you have to do one of the jumps in combination. And if you do not, then you get a 30% deduction on that element. And so they lost a lot of points on that. So what, potentially could have been, like a 12, point getter for them, they ended up with 0.85 on that element plus the fall deduction. It basically ended up negative. So, if you add, 12 points onto that, well, now they're at 120 points. And even with some of the other mistakes that they had, they would have made it onto the podium. Now, they also can't go to Worlds either, because now Danielle's year is up, because his last performance with Georgia was at Grand Prix Espo last year. But from my understanding, he has not been released from Georgia. So I don't know if they're waiting for compensation or what the deal is with that. And obviously there's no real urgency at this moment, because they didn't finish in the top 3. And so they wouldn't be trying to send them to Worlds, or of course they would have to get tech minimums before they could go to Worlds. There's one opportunity for that in Europe. And so anyway, that's not a concern for this year. Obviously, that's going to be a concern for next year. I do think that they have some potential. With Daniil, and I don't really remember this when he was skating with Anastasia Maltikina, but he is so stiff in his upper body. He makes an effort, but it does sort of stand out at times. There is quite a height difference between the two of them, which can work really well to your advantage. But it is, to me, very noticeable, and it's something that they do need to work on with their coaching team to get him something to sort of loosen him up. I don't know, he did some ballet or some hip hop or some yoga or something to help loosen up that upper body a little bit. He does have a personality. Like, he did this little dance after their short program ended, and I was like, oh, okay, like, yeah, he's got a little bit of a personality in there. I thought that they were a little slow in the step sequence. They're doing like Lux Eterna, which is what's very popular music at like the 2010 Olympics. I remember like everybody, their mama was skating to that music. But it's stupid. It's really big and dramatic music. I think Karen Chin, used it in her short programs in the Olympic season. But yeah, they've got some really, really good elements, and but they have very, very little competition together, just domestically, and then here kind of stepping out for the first time on a bigger stage. And so I think they'll definitely get Grand Prix assignments next season, provided that, he gets released from Georgia. And then I think that will help them, with some performances under their belt. And then maybe they need to pare down the technicality just a little bit. Like, maybe we don't need to go off and try the flip, double axel. Like, maybe we should just try like triple flip, like one double axel. We'll see. I mean, I know what they're aiming at, but yeah, I'm encouraged with what I saw. And I love the music selection for their free dance. Gosh, I'm getting these things like all confused. And their free skate, the slow Wicked Game cover. It's the same music that Vanessa James and her former partner, who shall not be named, used in their last season together. All right. So moving on from fifth place, let's talk about Isabel Martins and Ryan Bedard. They are another team from Ginny Mino and Todd Sands, and we're here with Brandon Frazier, who was looking very dapper, by the way, in both the programs. So, and also very missed. But that's enough said on that. All right. So what I love about this team is they have really good side-by-side jumps. Now, it didn't happen in the free skate, but in general, that is probably the strongest part of their skating is their side-by-sides. They have nice twist, nice side-by-side triple Salchows in their short program. And I thought that they looked improved even from when we saw them at Skate America, and they had just a gorgeous throw triple Salchow. And I would like to see more confidence in their step sequence in the short program. And I'd probably like to see a little bit more confidence overall in them as well. In the free skate, they do a double axel combination. She just doubled their sow, which I was like, why? They only got a base level on their triple twist. But I thought that they just, in general, they were kind of the first team that we saw that really had a lot of speed and a lot better ice coverage than we saw from the previous 4 teams that were ahead of them. That was the first team that was like, okay, we're starting to get to like the better pairs now. And so the biggest thing for them was that they fell out of that last lift. Like, she got up, but only got about a 1 revolution in, and they were super, super bummed about that. And it sucks. I mean, they probably lost, 6-ish points or so on that. Of course, with the mistake on the Salchow as well, that also didn't help because, I mean, they, could have finished ahead of McBeath and Parkman here if they had skated well, but they're about where you sort of expected them to be, just like kind of right in between those top 5 pairs and then just right ahead of those bottom pairs. So in 8th place here was Koreatek and Chapman, and I enjoyed them so much in the short program. They just got off to a great start, like right off the bat, with like this move that I remember pretty sure I remember Brandon doing it with his former partner Haven Denny in their Lion King program, like where she like jumps over and catches her. It's just really cool. They're doing like Smooth Criminal, which is awesome. They only do a throw double, and they did side-by-side double axles, so they don't have the technicality that the other teams ahead of them had, but they were clean and they were so fun. And then in the free skate, they were doing Lift Me Up by Rihanna, which is from the Black Panther 2 soundtrack, which is different, and I love the choice. Again, nice triple twist, but doing both the throw double Salchow and a throw double flip. So again, just not quite there. Nice exit out of their lifts. They totally bailed on their group 5 lift, but I thought that they did really well with the content that they have, which is not up to par with what you want to see with pairs. But hopefully it's something that they can upgrade in the future, because I do see some potential with them that maybe I don't see with some other teams. Okay, I just realized I just totally skipped over the 7th place team, which was Nika Tigerness and Mark Sadusky. So let's talk about them. In their free skate, in their short program, they are doing the white stripes, which I love. Love me a good white stripes program. Side-by-side double sows, which they did last year at Nationals. And I'm like, okay, you're a new team. Like, you want to do side-by-side double sows. Okay. At this point, like, can you not do double axles? Like, can we do something else? And 2, like, I get that teams are like probably practicing a triple sow and a triple toe. So that's why they go to double sows and double toes. But if you're going to do double jumps, like, why not do like a double flip or a double lutz or a double loop? That's like worth more points. Why always a double sow? They did at least do a throw triple sow. They didn't do any throw doubles. In their free skate, side-by-side doubles, again, in fact, they had, I love this one, a double sow, double toe, single axle combo. Just lovely. Fell on her triple throw, just had a very shaky lift, throw down on the hand down on her throw Salchow. I did really like their group 4 lift. I thought it was very nice. Overall, I don't know that I saw a ton of improvement over what I saw from them last year. And then they were in the Kiss and Cry with Delilah. And so that's a whole thing. So moving on. All right. The 9th place team here was the Mockoffs. And they were doing that Malaguena short program that we have seen from them. And side-by-side double axles, throw triple toe loop, which is different than what everybody else does. They had a very nice landing in there. I mean, it was really nice, but they sometimes will get an undercall on that, which you don't see a whole lot. They didn't get it here, but they did get a little bit of negative GOE, which was basically like they thought it was under. And they also got an undercall on her double axle. They also don't really get a lot of great levels, just a level 1 on their twist and just a level 2 on their step sequence. And just a level 3 on their group 3 lift too. And so a lot of points just left on the table for them, because I know when people probably saw their skate, they skated, what looked to be a clean performance, and then their scores come up and they're near the bottom, and that can be very confusing. But there's just, almost every single element that they do, either not getting a level or just getting a little bit of negative GOE somewhere, because they also got negative GOE on their spins. So I think they could use some new packaging. Their free skate to My Fair Lady is, I don't know what to think of it. It's like, I think I like it better than their free skate they did last year, which was like some kind of big Russian orchestra kind of music. But I still am like, why My Fair Lady? It just feels so dated. I mean, their whole aesthetic is very dated. Apparently their parents were like pair skaters in the 90s. So, I don't know. They need help on side-by-side jumps. Fell on both the triple toe, and the double axle. They did have one nice throw, but then they fell on their throw triple sow. They look like such sweet kids. I don't know what to say. Work on your jumps. Okay. And maybe like some modern music would also be helpful. All right. So the 10th place finishers here were Fitzpatrick and Behringer. Their short program was to Swan Lake, because every competition must have Swan Lake somewhere. They just do a double twist, her hand was down on the throw Salchow, and she did a double Salchow where he tripled it, and then they threw double and fell. And I did like that they did like a lift like way later in their program. A lot of people, they just like do like their twist, and they do their side by side, and then they do their throw, and then they do their lift, and then it's like all the hard stuff is over. And so I did appreciate that they had a little bit different layout, but they were definitely behind all of the other programs for sure. In the free skate, she fell on her double axel. They did not do a combo, and so that was problematic. They got a repetition violation. He did the 2-arm variation on the group 4 lift instead of the 1-arm. So like when I said earlier that Spencer was doing the 2-arm all week, like that's what he was doing all week. Whereas you saw everybody else in the competition go to 1-arm. They just do the 2-arm. So, just not quite there. I'm sure she had a great time. Her hometown is in Toledo. I don't know where that is in relation to Columbus, but it's in the same state. So I'm sure she had some friends and family there. And I'm sure they were thrilled to be there. And the thing about it is there were a lot of people in the crowd who knew absolutely nothing about skating and pairs, and they were excited and cheering for him, and I'm sure they had a really great experience. In fact, I saw in some of their after their performance press that they were talking about how loud the crowd was, and they were having a hard time hearing. So there's that. And strangely enough, they actually finished 9th out of 10 in the free skate, so they beat the mock-offs. So there's that. All right, so that was the very disappointing pairs event. I think everybody was definitely missing Alexa and Brandon, and it didn't help that they were both there. Like Brandon was there with Jenny and all of their skaters from Great Park, and then Alexa was there with her husband Chris Knierim and Timothy LeDuc, and they have pairs and juniors that were here at their training place in Illinois. So it was like, oh, you guys are here. Like I kind of felt like they could just like lace on boots and go out there and probably could have medaled. Okay. All right. It's just, you guys know, if you listen to the podcast, I love pairs. I love pairs. Like my podcast is named after a movie about pair skaters, right? And I'm used to US pairs, being like the wicked stepchild, right, of the 4 disciplines. It doesn't get as much love. And somebody asked me today, like, why do I think US pairs is always lacking? And I think there's a lot of reasons for this. I even talked about this on the Ice Swizzle podcast that I did about a year ago. Like, why is it our pairs are always so, at the time I told him, I said, well, for one thing, our pairs don't stay together. That's always an issue. A lot of partner swapping, and sometimes people don't stay together long enough. Sometimes people stay together too long. And what I was telling somebody on Twitter today, or X, was that it seems like in other countries, people find that good match a lot earlier. And so you don't have this partner swapping much later in their careers, and they can use that time to develop. Whereas a lot of times in the US, that really doesn't happen. And so people are still looking for that great partner well into their careers. And so they no partnership ever really has time to gel. And it just seems like we're always behind the 8 ball. And if you think about all the great US skaters, you often don't go to pair teams. You talk about Michelle and Tara and Sarah and Sasha Cohen. You talk about Brian Boitano and Scott Hamilton and Nathan Chin and Timothy Gable. And you talk about Davis and White and Belbin and Augusto. And who's out there going, Jenny Mino and Todd Sand? I mean, I will. But your average person, you're going to go to like the Nicole Bobecks of the world and the Jenny Kirks of the world before you start talking about pair skating. I mean, this is just the truth. And when you don't have pairs that are inspiring other people to want to become pairs, like that's a problem. And I do think that even the short run that Alexa and Brandon had will help, but you need more of that, and you need longer amounts of it. Like, I became a big pair fan, not because of American pairs. It was because of Brasseur and Eisler, who were Canadian pairs. It was because of Mishkatunik and Dmitriev, who were Russian pairs. Like, there were no American pairs for me to get excited about when I first started watching. And then Mino and Sand came around, and I didn't realize at the time what an anomaly they were until we had this long drought after them. And so, and I don't know what even some of the other pairs that we've had in the past, like what's Kyoka Ina doing? I think at one point she was named to be some type of development person in USFS. Whatever came of that, I have no idea. Right? I mean, we've had all the crap go down with John Zimmerman, right? I mean, he was, doing some pair coaching at some point, but there's a lot of reasons at the end of the day, right? But I think in general, if USFS would invest some time and money into the pairs program, they would reap some benefits from that. If they work to get people partnered, if they work to get people more interested in pairs at an earlier age where it wasn't just a destination when all other avenues have failed, then I think that the pairs program would have a chance to improve, because it's been like it was at this event just way, way too many times. But I must give out a Pamchenko award. And I'm going to give it to Plazas and Fernandez for that lift. Just forget a one single performance. I'm going to give it to Plazas and Fernandez for that just awesome reverse lasso lift that they do at the end of their free skate. It's just the best in the business, and they don't get enough credit for it internationally. The judges here gave them 3s and 4s. Where are the 5s? Come on, people. All right. Well, that's pairs. And thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. I'll be back with men and ladies shortly, and it'll be 4 continents before we know it. And hopefully we have a good pairs event at 4 continents to sort of, cleanse our palate from this event. You can find me on all the socials at Ice Skate Podcast. You can shoot me a line at thecuttingedgepod@gmail.com. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And if you're looking for a good pairs program to go back and look at, I recommend anything Sui and Han. Oh,